Don't Pray For Me is an eclectic record, but if I'm pushed to name a song that means the most to me, I tend to say the title track.
He's finally crawling his way back home.
It has become the song that has, perhaps above all others that I've ever written, connected on a deeper level than I could ever have imagined. I have tried to describe the moment it popped into my head, and I still find it really hard to explain what a profound moment it was. It arrived around the time of the Big Bad EP campaign when we were beginning to think about making our debut. I was acutely aware of my developing role as main songwriter in the band and felt a mixture of pressure and elation. Pressure at the need to really step up and elation that I could do it at all. The seed of the idea began with a programme about teenage runaways that had a huge effect on me. The kids on the programme were around my age and for whatever reason didn't have the things I had: warmth, comfort and care. It made me deeply sad. I have a memory of running up the stairs of my parents' house with the melody of the song beginning to form. By the time I had reached my bedroom, the chorus was in my head. I literally grabbed my battered acoustic guitar and began to frantically search for the chords. Within a few minutes, the main riff and chord structure were in place and half of the words were scrawled across the pages of a dog-eared diary. I then went downstairs and carried on watching TV with no idea if it was any good at all. It was only later that I realised I had something special. I introduced the song to the band at Black Barn Studios in Ripley, Surrey, owned by Robin Black, who worked with Black Sabbath. I remember being really nervous about it. It was late at night and we were all exhausted from recording demos. Our manager then said, "Has anyone got anything else?" I hadn't played it to anyone else at this point, and I didn't know if it would fit. Thankfully, everyone liked it and it came together very easily. From that point on, our roles were becoming more defined and the team play attitude began to take hold. This was a part of our determined approach to success: recognise what you're good at and focus on it. Like I've described earlier, I have no real earthly understanding of how these songs come to me. These days what I do know is it's all about allowing your mind and spirit to be as open and as accepting as possible, to open a portal almost. I think part of being creative is to be like a window of the world. Our eyes see it, interpret it and spit it back out in one form of creative splurge or another. It's like having an antenna on your head, one that is continually looking for signals in everything that passes your window. The Runaway Kids angle of the song isn't the whole story though. I began to evolve the lyric and it soon became as much about leaving a small place and seeking something more before returning back to face your demons, albeit with a greater sense of self and a bigger view. It wasn't and isn't supposed to be melancholic, far from it. It is drenched in honesty and is saying it's okay to be wrong, it's okay to fail just as long as you learn and move forward. There is defiance in the title as well as strength and resignation. We released the song as a single and it once again bombed, and I was devastated. I genuinely felt like it had all the hallmarks of a hit single. Just shows how wrong you can be. And with the album floundering and selling less copies than the label had anticipated, we found ourselves once again under pressure and we needed a miracle. I recently listened to a rehearsal cassette from that era and it surprised me how quick we were at sifting through ideas to see what would work. There really was no messing around. Boneyard is, for many fans, the moment the whole idea ignited, and it's not hard to see why. We knew we needed a selection of big rock songs that were simple yet layered, and had fallen in love with yet another Aerosmith work of genius, Pump. An album which straddled a line beautifully between pop and rock as well as being complex and challenging for the rock fan. I remember coming up with a chorus in the rehearsal room. It again popped into my head. It's a really simple idea. We're all going to die, so let's make sure we do good stuff whilst we're here kind of thing. A celebration of life drawn from the same kind of cerebral pen the Brothers Grimm used. I remember Bruce coming up with the main riff and everyone was blown away by the mood of the piece. It felt special and fun with a cool swagger at its core. We knew it would be a big song for us, and we were ecstatic when Polydor loved it also, and moved towards the release of the record, at that time titled Spitfire. Sadly, but perhaps fortuitously for us, the Gulf War then erupted, and the song and the album were banned by all major outlets on the grounds that they were glorifying war, which of course is poppycock. This is a song about life and celebrating it. But as with all of these kinds of knee-jerk reactions at a national level, it actually helped us by making the song infamous. The reporting in the press and the myth that quickly grew around it, such as US soldiers were blasting it out of speakers strapped to the bodies of their tanks as they went into battle, are without doubt total fiction, and stories I personally hated, as they were the polar opposite of what I wanted to say with the lyric. But its reputation preceded it, and really the controversy helped us more than it hindered. And at this point I'd just like to say that I think this is Mike Leigh's finest moment. What a player, and what a loss. In a Jam. The thing that we lived and died for were the live shows, and the touring schedule for the Jam album was relentless. Whilst we were making Jam through 1992, we worked with Bryan Adams again. He kindly lent us his dulcet tones to our first single, Too Much Too Young, as a backing vocalist, and then, much to our surprise, asked us to open on his UK tour in the July of the same year, which saw us play several football stadiums including Wembley, a gig that I rate in my top 10 greatest gigs I've ever been part of. 80,000 rock fans in the home of British football. Absolutely incredible. From there, we were confirmed on Van Halen's European tour, which kicked off in the March of '93 and took us all over the continent. It was a dream come true. To share a stage with one of our hero bands was nothing short of mind-blowing. Eddie was so great to us, the whole band were, but I think he spent more time in our dressing room than his own, trading stories whilst he sat playing his famous Frankenstrat guitar. That tour really elevated us yet again into the major leagues, and once we hit the UK we played Wembley Arena, another memorable show for the fact that they invited us to play You Really Got Me with them in front of their adoring crowd. It was a true pinch me moment that I'll never forget. After that, it was on to Bon Jovi in August and September and their enormous European tour that put us back in stadiums, including 2 incredible Milton Keynes Bowl gigs. We travelled on their private jet, hung out with the band and watched as they praised us in interviews. It couldn't have been better, certainly from an outsider's point of view.